I took leave like I always did by stacking it around real life. My last duty day ended at 1700. I turned in my keys, signed the log, and walked out of the building with that weird mix of relief and paranoia you get when you're finally off the clock, but still mentally scanning for problems. I had a plan that felt simple on purpose. Drive home, see my parents sleep in my old room for one night, and then spend the rest of my leave handling adult stuff I actually needed, like the final walkthrough for a house near the water. Nothing dramatic, no big announcement, no surprise I'm back balloons. Just me, a duffel bag, and a highway that smelled like fast food and bad decisions. I kept my phone on the passenger seat face down. I didn't need distractions. I also didn't need my sister's name flashing on my screen like a warning label. I hadn't told anyone at home what I was doing with my money. That wasn't secrecy, that was survival. By the time I pulled into my parents' neighborhood, the sun was already low, the kind of orange that makes everything look nicer than it actually is. The grass was still the same tired shade. The mailbox still leaned a little to the right, like it had given up trying to stand tall in this family. I parked at the curb and sat for a second with the engine running. I wasn't nervous about seeing my parents. I was nervous about what version of my sister would show up. Kinsley wasn't just moody. She was strategic. She could turn any moment into a fundraiser, any conversation into a courtroom, and any boundary into a personal attack. She had a talent for making you feel guilty for breathing without paying rent. I cut the engine, grabbed my duffel, and walked up the driveway. The porch light was on. Curtains were half drawn. From the outside, it looked normal, cozy even. That's the thing about family drama. It usually happens in rooms that look like they should smell like cookies. I didn't knock right away. I adjusted my bag strap, breathed in, and tried to remember the last time I came home, and it didn't turn into an argument about money. It had been a while. I knocked anyway. A few seconds passed, then the door opened fast, and there she was. Kinsley. Not in a, "Oh my God, you're here" way. Not in a, "How was the drive" way. In a, "I've been waiting behind this door like a bouncer" kind of way. She planted herself in the doorway so I couldn't step inside. She didn't even pretend she was happy to see me. Her eyes flicked down to my bag like she was checking for a donation box. "Wow," she said loud enough for the people inside to hear. "You actually came." I blinked. "Hi, Kins." She laughed once. Not a real laugh. More like a sound effect. "Don't call me that." I kept my voice flat. "Navy habit. Is Mom home?" Kinsley leaned her shoulder against the frame like she owned the place. "They're here." I looked past her into the hallway. My dad was standing back near the living room, half in shadow, like he was hoping the darkness could swallow him. My mom was behind him, arms crossed, face tight. Neither of them moved. Neither of them said my name. It hit me right in the chest, sharp and clean. I hadn't even stepped inside, and I already felt like a problem. Kinsley followed my gaze and smiled like she'd been handed an award. "Yeah," she said. "They know you're here." I tried to keep it normal. "I'm on leave. I thought I'd come by see everyone." "See everyone," she repeated, making it sound like a joke. "Bree, be serious." My mom's eyes stayed on me, but her mouth didn't move. My dad shifted his weight like he wanted to say something, then didn't. Kinsley lifted her chin. "Let's not do the fake sweet thing. You didn't come to see everyone. You came to feel better about yourself." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She stepped forward a fraction, still blocking the door. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. You stopped helping." There it was, right on schedule. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do the whole, "I've helped plenty" speech, even though I could have. I could have pulled up bank transfers going back years. I could have shown the payments I sent when she just needed a little boost. The money I wired when she had an amazing opportunity. The time I covered her car insurance because she forgot again. The month I paid the electric bill because it's embarrassing to have the lights shut off. I could have done a lot. Instead, I said, "I haven't stopped helping. I stopped funding your business." Kinsley's eyes narrowed. There it is, the attitude. I exhaled through my nose. "Kinsley, I'm not doing this on the porch." "Oh, we're doing it right here," she said louder now. "Because I'm not letting you walk in like some hero when you won't even invest in my future." My dad's head dipped. My mom looked away for half a second, then back at me, like she was checking if I'd start crying. I didn't. Kinsley kept going, words spilling out like she'd rehearsed them. "You're the one with a steady paycheck. You're the one with benefits. You're the one who doesn't have to worry about real life. But you come home and act like you're above us. I almost laughed, almost. Because the idea that the Navy is not real life is one of those things you can only say if you've never had to show up at 0500 on 3 hours of sleep to fix a problem you didn't create, while someone yells at you like you personally invented gravity. But I didn't laugh, I kept my tone even. I'm not above anyone. I'm just not paying for another launch. Kinsley snapped. It's not a launch, it's a business. My mom finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but sharp. Bree, she's trying. I looked at my mom like she'd slapped me. So am I. My dad took one step forward, then stopped. Let's just calm down. Kinsley cut him off with a glance. No, she needs to hear it. And then she said the line that made everything go cold. This house doesn't welcome you. She said it like she was quoting a rule. Like there was a sign on the door, and she was just reading it out loud. I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't let it show. I stared at her, then past her at my parents. I waited. I gave them a clean opening. A chance to be parents. A chance to say, that's enough. A chance to say, of course you're welcome here. My dad's eyes dropped to the floor. My mom's face stayed still. No one corrected her. The porch light buzzed softly above us. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked, like it was warning me to turn around. Kinsley's mouth tilted up. You heard me. I shifted my duffel higher on my shoulder. My hands felt steady, which almost scared me. Like my body had already accepted what my brain was still trying to process. I nodded once. Okay. My mom's eyebrows lifted, like she expected a fight. I didn't give her one. I looked at my dad. You too. His mouth opened, then closed. He cleared his throat. Bree, you know how your sister gets. Just don't make it worse. I stared at him for a beat, then looked back at my mom. She said nothing. Kinsley leaned closer, voice dropping like she was sharing a secret. Don't come back until you're useful. That one landed different. That one wasn't even about money. Not directly. It was about what I was in this family. A resource. A walking paycheck. A problem when I said no. I stepped back off the porch. The cold air hit my face and made my eyes sting. I turned toward my car without rushing like I was leaving a store that had the wrong item, not walking away from my own house. Behind me, the door stayed open just long enough for me to hear Kinsley say, good like she'd won something. I got into my car, shut the door, and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel. My phone lit up with a missed call notification. Not from my mom, not from my dad, from Kinsley. I flipped it over on the seat, again stared straight ahead, and felt something click into place, quiet, solid, and final. Not anger, not revenge. A decision. I started the engine and pulled away from the curb, not knowing where I'd sleep that night, but knowing exactly what I wasn't going to be anymore. I drove until the neighborhood lights disappeared in my rearview mirror, then pulled into the first well-lit gas station I saw, and just sat there with my hands still locked on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed again. Kinsley. I didn't answer. I didn't even decline it. I let it ring out like a timer, then flipped the phone face down so I wouldn't see her name again. My chest felt tight like my body was still waiting for someone to jump out and say the whole thing was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. I got out, walked into the store, and bought the most basic. I am a person who is fine. Supplies a bottle of water, a protein bar, and gum. I stood at the counter while a teenage cashier scanned my stuff like he'd never seen anyone purchase sadness before. Back in the car, I chewed the gum hard enough to make my jaw ache. My eyes were dry. No tears. That part had already burned out like it had happened so many times. My body didn't bother anymore. That's what bothered me. Not that Kinsley said it. That my parents let her. And if I was being honest, really honest, none of it was new. It was just the first time they said it out loud with a door between us. When people ask what it was like growing up in my house, I usually give them the safe version. I say my parents did their best. I say my sister and I were different. I say I left early and joined the Navy because I wanted something stable. All true, but the real pattern was simple. I was the kid you leaned on, and Kinsley was the kid you protected. Even when she didn't need protecting. Even when she was the one swinging. In elementary school, teachers would hand my mom report cards with A's across the board, and my mom would smile like she was receiving a package she forgot she ordered. Good job, Bree, she'd say, distracted. Then she'd turn right back to Kinsley and ask if she packed her lunch, if she remembered her sweater, if she felt okay. Kinsley was always not okay. That was her superpower. By middle school, I was making my own lunches and getting myself to practice. Kinsley got driven everywhere like she was a celebrity trying to avoid paparazzi. If she forgot her homework, my mom would run it to the school. If I forgot mine, my mom would say, "Well, you'll remember next time." I did. I remembered everything. That became my job. By the time I hit high school, money was tight in a way my parents didn't like to say out loud. It wasn't dramatic poverty. It was the slow kind where the electric bill is a week late and the fridge is mostly condiments. The kind where you hear your parents whispering at night and you pretend you don't. So I got a job. I started bussing tables at a diner off the highway. Nothing fancy. The uniform smelled like fryer oil, and the floors were always sticky, but they paid on time. I'd come home with cash tips in my pocket and hand my mom a folded stack like I was paying rent in a place I didn't choose. She'd take it without looking me in the eye, like accepting help from the strong one didn't count as needing help. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it was teamwork. Kinsley didn't get a job. She tried once at a boutique and quit after 2 shifts because the manager had a tone. Somehow that became a family emergency. My mom made her cocoa. My dad told her she deserved better. I took another shift at the diner and didn't say a word. That's how it went. If I struggled, it was a lesson. If Kinsley struggled, it was a tragedy. The Navy was the first place in my life where the rules didn't change, depending on who was crying louder. I didn't have some movie moment where a recruiter shook my hand and fireworks went off. I just wanted out. I wanted structure. I wanted to earn something that couldn't be taken away by someone else's mood. I also wanted my parents to be proud of me, for the first time without conditions. When I told them I was enlisting, my mom's first question wasn't, "Are you sure or are you safe?" It was, "Do you get paid right away?" My dad said, "That's a steady job." Kinsley said, "Must be nice." And that was it. No banner, no tears, just immediate math. Once I was in, I did what I always did. I carried things. I learned. I showed up early. I listened more than I talked. I got good at being dependable because dependability is currency in both families and commands. At first, sending money home felt normal. It was like muscle memory. My mom would text, "Can you help with the car insurance this month?" And I'd say yes. My dad would call casual, "We're a little short on the electric bill," and I'd handle it. Then it became Kinsley. Not directly at first. She'd frame it like a dream, a plan, a fresh start. "I'm going to start doing event planning," she'd say. Like real weddings and corporate stuff. "I'm going to sell vintage clothes online. It's a thing now. I'm going to be a wellness coach." People make serious money. Every idea sounded like the first page of a brochure. There was always a logo involved. There was always a photo shoot involved. There was always a class she needed to take from a person with a ring light and a fake last name. And there was always a number. Just a small investment. Just to get started. Just until the first clients come in. I sent money the first time because I wanted her to have something. I sent money the second time because my mom begged. I sent money the third time because my dad said she really needs this brie. And after that, it wasn't even about helping her succeed. It was about keeping the peace. Because if I said no, my phone would blow up. If I said no, my mom would cry. If I said no, my dad would get quiet and disappointed. And Kinsley would go nuclear acting like I'd stolen food off her plate. So I paid for calm. And Kinsley learned that calm had a price. I didn't notice the shift at first, but it happened. My name stopped being Bree and started being Bree with the paycheck. When I came home on leave before Kinsley would hug me like a greeting card, then immediately slide into business. "You know what would really help me?" she'd say while we were still standing in the kitchen. I'd ask, "Did you ever finish that course you bought last time?" She'd wave it off. That was different. It was never different. The money didn't go to inventory or permits or a realistic plan. It went to stuff that made her feel like a business owner without having to do the boring part where you actually work. And my parents let her because she's finding herself. Meanwhile, I was finding myself at 0500, with a clipboard counting gear, fixing mistakes I didn't make, and staying late because the job didn't care about my feelings. The moment it changed for me wasn't some big betrayal. It was a Tuesday. Kinsley called and asked for money again, and I said I couldn't. I had my own bills. I was trying to save. I was tired of watching my paycheck vanish. She laughed like I'd told a joke. Then she said, "You're not married. You don't have kids. What else are you doing with your money?" That was the first time I realized she didn't see me as a person with a life. She saw me as a pipeline. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said I'm done sending money for business stuff. My mom called within an hour already upset. Bree, why are you being like this? She just needs support. I remember staring at the wall in my barracks room phone pressed to my ear and thinking, support? Like I was a subscription service. I told my mom I'll help with essentials sometimes. I'm not funding another plan. My mom's voice went flat. So you're just cutting her off. I said I'm setting a boundary. She sighed like boundaries were rude. After that, my plan got quiet. I focused on saving. I set up automatic transfers. I paid down debt. I invested like a grown woman who didn't want to be one emergency away from chaos. I built a future that didn't depend on anyone's approval. And I still somehow thought I could come home and be treated like a daughter. Sitting in that gas station parking lot, I pulled up my notes app and typed 3 words with my thumb, slow and deliberate. No more access. Then I erased it and typed it again because the first time felt like a lie. No more access. My phone buzzed again, and this time it wasn't a call. A text from Kinsley lit up the screen. You always run away. That's why you're alone. I stared at it, felt something in me go still, then opened my banking app and scrolled through the transfers I'd sent over the years, little chunks of my life handed over to keep people from being mad at me. I didn't screenshot anything yet. I just looked, long enough to recognize the pattern, long enough to finally stop pretending I didn't. I turned my phone to airplane mode and drove the rest of the way back toward Norfolk like I was escorting my own sanity to safety. By the time I checked into a plain hotel off the interstate, it was late enough that the lobby smelled like stale coffee and somebody else's regret. The clerk slid my keycard across the counter without making eye contact, which honestly felt like customer service at its finest. Up in the room, I dropped my duffel on the carpet and sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, boots still on, staring at the wall like it was going to explain my family to me if I waited long enough. It didn't. So I did what I always do when something is out of control. I made a plan. I pulled out my laptop, opened my email, and looked at the calendar for my leave. Inspection appointment, walk-through window, closing paperwork. Everything was already moving whether my mother spoke to me or not. The house wasn't some fantasy. It was practical. It was me being tired of hauling my life around like an overpacked sea bag. A place near the water close enough to base that I wouldn't have to piece my way into another identity. Not a mansion. Not some influencer beach palace with white couches nobody sits on. A real coastal house with weathered siding, a decent roof, and a porch where I could drink coffee without hearing somebody demand a wire transfer. I shut the laptop and finally took my boots off. My phone buzzed against the nightstand, even in airplane mode, like it was annoyed it couldn't deliver drama. I left it there. At 05:30, my body woke up automatically. That's what years of the Navy does. You can be on leave and still pop awake like you're about to miss muster. I showered, dressed in jeans and a hoodie, and went down to the lobby for coffee that tasted like it had been filtered through a sock. I drank it anyway. Then I drove to base. Not because I had to, because I needed to feel normal. Naval Station Norfolk, at sunrise, is its own world. Cars lining up, people walking fast, everyone pretending they're not tired. The gate guard checked my ID, nodded, and waved me through like he'd seen 1,000 versions of me. Which he had. I parked and walked toward my building, breathing in that mix of salt air and diesel that makes outsiders think you're in a movie and makes sailors think great another day. I didn't have to be there, but I had a reason to stop by. My leave paperwork had already been approved, but I needed to pick up a document for my home purchase, a proof of employment letter, and a couple pay stubs the lender wanted in their special little format that makes you wonder if they've ever heard of the internet. Inside the office, the lights were too bright and the air was too cold. Everything smelled like toner and hand sanitizer. My kind of place. Whitaker, a voice called from down the hall. Chief Rosalind Maddox stepped out of her office like she owned the building. She was in command climate, the way some people are in command of a room, quiet, solid, not interested in your excuses. Chief, I said. She looked me up and down the way chiefs do when they're reading your posture like a report. You're on leave. Yes, Chief. And you're here. Yes, Chief. She raised one eyebrow. That family trip go great. I didn't give her the whole story. I wasn't trying to cry in a hallway at 700. I just said, it got complicated. Chief Maddox nodded like she'd already guessed the plot. Uh-huh. Paperwork. Yes, Chief. Lender needs updated documents. Come on! She motioned me into her office, and pointed at the chair like it was an order. I sat. She sat behind her desk, pulled out a folder, and slid 2 pages toward me. Proof of employment, pay verification, anything else? No, Chief, that's it. She watched me for a second. You look like you slept in your car. I didn't, I said. I slept in a hotel. She made a face. Same thing. I almost smiled. Almost. Then my phone, which I'd taken off airplane mode on the drive, buzzed in my pocket, like it was desperate to be the main character. I ignored it. Chief Maddox tapped her pen against the desk. You want to talk, or you want to keep pretending you're fine? I took a breath. I'm fine. She leaned back. That's not an answer. That's a habit. I stared at the folder in front of me. The papers were clean, clear, organized, the opposite of my family. I said my sister told me I wasn't welcome at my parents' house. Chief Maddox didn't gasp, didn't look shocked. She just nodded once like she was updating a mental file. And your parents? They didn't stop her. Chief Maddox exhaled through her nose. Of course they didn't. I looked up. You're not even surprised. I've been in long enough to know family can be your biggest support system, or your biggest liability, she said. Sometimes both on the same day. I swallowed. She's mad because I won't fund her business. Chief Maddox gave a short laugh. Business? Let me guess. She's launching something. She's always launching something. Yeah, Chief Maddox said. Some people don't want to build. They want applause for saying they're going to build. I couldn't help it. I let out a small laugh. It came out dry like it hadn't been used in a while. Chief Maddox pointed her pen at me. You're not a bank, Whitaker. No, Chief. Say it like you mean it. I hesitated, then said, I'm not a bank. Good, she said, because the second they treat you like a bank, they stop treating you like family. That hit too cleanly. I looked down at the papers again, the ones that proved I worked, I earned I existed. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Dad! I stared at the screen for a second, then answered, because part of me still wanted him to be a father. Hey, I said. His voice came through cautious and low, like he was calling from a room where someone was listening. Bree. Yeah. A pause. Your mom's upset. I waited. He cleared his throat. You didn't have to leave like that. I almost laughed, but it wasn't funny. I didn't have to leave. I was told the house doesn't welcome me. He sighed. You know Kinsley gets worked up. You keep saying that like it makes it okay, I said. Another pause. Just, don't make this bigger than it needs to be. You could apologize. Smooth it over. There it was. Not are you okay? Not I'm sorry. Smooth it over. Like I was the one who broke something. I felt my hand tighten around the phone. And apologize for what? For... You know, he said vague on purpose. For how things went. I looked at Chief Maddox. She wasn't listening like she wanted gossip. She was listening like she wanted to see if I'd protect myself. I said into the phone, Dad. I'm not apologizing for not writing another check. He went quiet. Your sister's trying. I kept my voice steady, so am I. He exhaled hard like I was exhausting. Just think about it. I said a lot. I ended the call before he could say something that would make me regret answering. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from my mom. Don't be stubborn. Family is family. I stared at the words until they blurred. Chief Maddox said, let me guess. They want you to fix it. I didn't answer. She nodded anyway. Here's the thing, Whitaker. The Navy taught you something your family didn't. You can't keep a ship afloat by pouring your own body into the hole. That was the closest she'd ever come to poetry, and it still sounded like a safety brief. I took a slow breath, then opened my notes app on my phone. Not dramatic, not emotional, just a list. Passwords. 2FA. Emergency contact, mail forwarding, credit check. I'd already started some of it. I could tighten it. Chief Maddox watched me type. You closing on that house? Yes, Chief. Good, she said. Then focus on the mission. Everything else is noise. I nodded because for the first time in 12 hours, I felt like I wasn't about to collapse. I stood up, slid the documents into my folder, and slung my bag over my shoulder. My phone buzzed again, this time with Kinsley's name, like she was trying to remind me she still controlled the story. I didn't decline it. I didn't block her yet either. I just walked out of Chief Maddox's office and into the hallway, letting the fluorescent lights and the steady hum of the building do what they always did, pull me back into the version of myself that gets things done. Outside, the wind off of the water cut across the parking lot, sharp and clean, and I got in my car with a decision settling in my gut, like wait. I wasn't going to fix this with an apology. I was going to fix it by making sure they couldn't touch anything I'd built. I pulled into my hotel parking spot, sat there with the engine running, and then turned my phone back on like I was choosing violence. Quiet, controlled violence. But still, 3 missed calls. 2 from my mom. 1 from Kinsley, a string of texts stacked on top of each other like a bad to-do list. I didn't open them yet. I went inside first, dropped my folder on the desk, and washed my hands like I could rinse off my family. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, unlocked my phone, and started reading. Mom, why are you doing this, Mom? Your father is stressed. Mom, Kinsley is trying to build something. Mom, don't punish her because you're upset. That last one almost made me laugh. Punish her, like withholding my paycheck was some kind of cruelty, like I'd been withholding air. Kinsley's text came after all of that, perfectly timed, like she'd let my mom soften me up first. Kinsley, I'm not fighting with you. I'm offering you a chance to be part of something. I stared at the screen until my eyes went dry. Then a second text popped in. Kinsley, call me. Adults talk. Adults, I mouthed alone in my hotel room, and that one actually made me laugh. Quietly once. The kind of laugh you do when you can't believe the audacity, but you also can't afford to be surprised anymore. I called her anyway, not because she deserved it, because I wanted it on record, her tone, her words, her angle. If she was going to keep trying to steer the story, I wanted to hear exactly where she was driving. She answered on the first ring, like she'd been holding her phone waiting for my name. Finally, she said, "Say what you need to say," I replied. There was a pause. I could hear a TV in the background and the faint clink of a spoon, like she was lounging while I sat in a hotel room trying to keep my life from getting hijacked. "I don't get why you're acting like this," she said, voice suddenly soft. "You show up and make everyone uncomfortable and then storm out." I kept my tone flat. "You told me I wasn't welcome." "You were welcome," she said immediately, like she could rewrite time if she spoke fast enough. "You just weren't welcome to come in and pretend everything's fine while you refused to support the family." There it was again. Family as a business model. "What family support are you talking about?" I asked. "Because I've been sending money for years." She exhaled dramatically. "Oh my God, here we go with the scoreboard." "It's not a scoreboard," I said. "It's my bank account." Kinsley clicked her tongue. "Bree, you're in the Navy. You have stability. You have benefits. You're literally set up for life compared to most people." "Compared to you," I said. "Maybe, because you keep setting fire to your own plans." Silence. Then she laughed sharp. "Wow, so that's what you think of me?" "I think you're capable," I said. "I also think you keep asking for money instead of doing the boring part." "What boring part?" "The part where you actually work," I said. She scoffed. "I am working." "Spending money isn't work," I replied. "It's spending money." Her voice shifted. It got sweeter. That was always her tell. When she went sweet, she was about to ask for something. "Okay," she said. "Let's be practical. You don't have to give me anything. Think of it as an investment." I didn't speak. She kept going, rolling out her pitch like she was on Shark Tank, except the sharks had more empathy. "I'm starting a boutique-style wellness events company," she said. "Not like random parties. Real curated experiences. Small groups. Retreat vibes without the travel. I've already got the name. I've got the brand direction. I've been talking to venues." I pictured her sitting on her bed with a notebook full of Pinterest screenshots. "What do you need?" I asked. "Seed money," she said, casual. "Just to get it off the ground." "How much?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. That meant she'd practiced. "4,000, she said. "That's nothing for you." I let the silence stretch for a beat. 4,000 isn't nothing. "It is for you," she insisted. "You're single. You don't have kids. What else are you doing with your money?" There it was, the same line, like it was part of her contract. I felt my jaw tighten. "I'm saving." For what she asked, voice dripping with fake curiosity. I paused. Not because I didn't know, because I didn't trust her with it. "I'm building my life," I said. She laughed again, softer this time. "Okay, but your life doesn't have to be so selfish." I closed my eyes for a second. Selfish. That was her favorite word. It meant I asked, and you said no. "Kinsley," I said, "I'm not sending you money." Her tone snapped back to sharp. "So you're just leaving me to fail?" "You're not failing," I said. "You're choosing not to do anything unless someone funds it." "That's not fair," she said. "It's accurate," I replied. I heard her breathe like she was building momentum. "You know what," she said. "You've changed since you joined the Navy." I almost smiled. "Yeah, I learned math." She ignored that. "You're colder. You think you're better than everyone." "I think I'm tired," I said. I think I've been paying for peace and calling it help. Peace, she snapped. You don't even live here. You don't know what it's like. I leaned back against the hotel headboard. I know what it's like to work. I know what it's like to plan. I know what it's like to not get what you want and still show up. She made a noise like I was lecturing her. You always do that. You talk down to me. I'm not talking down, I said. I'm talking clearly. There was a beat where I thought maybe she'd hang up. Instead, she went for the next move. Fine, she said suddenly quiet. If you won't invest, at least cover the venue deposit. I stared at the ceiling. No. Okay, she said faster, then cover the website build. That's only like 800. No. Then the promo materials. No, I repeated, and my voice didn't change. She went silent again, and when she spoke, her voice was low. So you really don't care about me? I opened my eyes. That's not what this is. Yes, it is, she said. You don't want me to have anything. You want to be the successful one. I felt a flash of anger, hot and quick, because she said successful, like it was something I'd stolen from her, instead of something I'd earned. I didn't take anything from you, I said. I worked. I joined. I stayed. I didn't quit when it got hard. She snapped. Not everyone wants to join the military and become a robot. I actually laughed this time. Trust me, if I were a robot, I'd have better sleep. She ignored it. Mom and Dad are embarrassed. Do you know how it looks when you refuse to help your own sister? I'm not refusing to help, I said. I'm refusing to bankroll. She made a disgusted sound. Whatever. Keep your money. Keep your little savings. Keep your perfect life. Then, like she couldn't stop herself, she added, Don't bother coming back. You made your choice. My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed even. You already told me that. She hung up. I stared at my phone for a second, then set it down on the nightstand like it was contaminated. 10 seconds later, a group text popped up. My mom, my dad Kinsley, and 2 relatives I barely talked to. Kinsley Bree won't help me start my business. She came home and disrespected Mom. Aunt Linda Bree, is that true? Mom Bree, please don't do this in the family chat, Dad. Let's just calm down. I read it twice, then once more, and something in me settled. This wasn't about a venue deposit. It wasn't even about a business. It was about control. About making sure I stayed in the role they understood, the one who pays, so everyone else can pretend things are fine. I opened my notes app and started a list, not a rant. Dates, amounts, reasons, screenshots. I wasn't going to argue in a group chat like a teenager. I wasn't going to defend my life to people who only called me when they needed something. I typed one message back, short enough to be clear and long enough to be final. I've helped for years. I'm not funding any business ventures anymore. Please stop asking. Then I muted the chat. A new message came in immediately. From my mom, private. If you don't help your sister, don't expect to be treated like family. I stared at that line until the humor of it finally hit me. Dark, bitter humor, but still humor. Treated like family. As if I'd just been handed a membership card I could lose for missing a payment. I locked my phone, stood up, and grabbed my folder of house documents off the desk. The edges were crisp. The timeline was real. The plan was mine. I wasn't going to beg for a door that was held shut on purpose. I was going to build one that only opened when I decided. I opened my laptop at the little hotel desk, pulled up my banking dashboard, and treated my family like a recurring charge I needed to cancel before it overdrafted my life. No anger typing, no dramatic music in my head, just clicks. I started with the bills I'd been covering, because yes, even after years of being treated like a walking ATM, I'd still been paying a couple essentials. Not because they deserved it, but because I didn't want the lights shut off, and my parents blaming me like I personally unplugged the house. Electric autopay monthly. Phone partial coverage for my mom because she always couldn't figure out the plan. One streaming subscription I didn't even watch, somehow tied to their TV. And a couple transfers labeled groceries that always turned into Kinsley needed gas. I stared at the list and felt that familiar tug, the reflex to keep things stable for people who never kept me stable. Then I remembered Kinsley's face in that doorway. This house doesn't welcome you. Click. I turned off the streaming service first. Petty maybe, but I wasn't about to fund my own humiliation in HD. Click. I changed the electric bill payment from autopay to manual, set a reminder for one last payment, and put a note next to it. Final. No discussion. I didn't want a gotcha. I wanted clean separation. Next phone. I opened the carrier app and removed my card from the account. I didn't cancel her service or do anything dramatic. I just stopped being the silent sponsor. If my mom wanted to keep her phone, she could pay for it like every other adult in America. Click! Then I pulled up my savings and investment accounts and checked the settings. Two-factor authentication was already on for most of them, but I tightened everything anyway. New passwords, new security questions that weren't guessable. No more mother's maiden name nonsense. No more answers a family member could know. I also changed the answer to first pet to something completely unrelated, because if Kinsley knew one thing about me, it was how to weaponize my past. Then I did the thing that felt weirdly emotional, even though it was just a form. Emergency contact. My mom and dad had been listed for years, because that's what you do when you don't want to admit your family can be a liability. I stared at their names on the screen for a second, Howard Cheryl, and thought about how neither of them said one word while Kinsley stood there like a bouncer. I changed it. Primary, my close friend Tasha from my command, the one who actually showed up when life got messy. Secondary, Chief Maddox, because if something happened to me, I trusted her to act, not perform grief for an audience. I hit save. My chest loosened just a little, like my body finally believed I was allowed to protect myself. My phone buzzed again. Group chat. I didn't open it. Instead, I opened my credit monitoring app and ran a quick check. My credit had been clean for years, boring, consistent, beautiful. But after that group chat and Kinsley's little adults talk line, I wasn't taking chances. I placed a fraud alert. Then I froze my credit. It took 10 minutes and felt like locking my front door in a neighborhood where people keep accidentally trying your handle. Once it was done, I exhaled and stared at the screen. There was something almost funny about it. My family had trained me to anticipate chaos, and the Navy had trained me to document it. Perfect match. My phone lit up with a private call. Mom. I stared at it until it stopped ringing. Immediately after, she sent a text. Mom, did you really mute the family chat? I didn't respond. Another one came. Mom, you're making this worse. Then, Mom, your father is disappointed. I read that one twice. Not angry, just tired. My father was disappointed in me the way a man is disappointed when the remote control stops working. Not sad, not concerned, just inconvenienced. I set the phone down and opened my email. My lender had sent a message earlier. Subject line, clear to close. Final documents needed. I clicked it. Inside was a list. Pay stubs, employment verification, updated bank statement for the down payment account, confirmation of earnest money. All things I could provide. All things that had nothing to do with my family. I forwarded the email to myself with a note handle today. Then I texted my realtor. Me. Still good for walkthrough on Friday, realtor. Yep. Friday, 10 o'clock. Bring ID. I stared at the message for a second. Friday, 10 o'clock. A normal adult appointment. A real milestone. Not a fight, not a plea. Not a negotiation with someone who thought my paycheck belonged to them. My phone buzzed again. Kinsley this time. I answered without thinking, then immediately regretted it. What I said. Her voice was bright, like she was calling to invite me to brunch. Hey, so Mom told me you're acting crazy. I almost laughed. Acting crazy? Yeah, she said. Like muting the family chat, that's childish. I leaned back in the chair. I'm not arguing with you in a group chat. It's not arguing, she said. It's accountability. Accountability would be you paying your own bills, I replied. Her tone shifted. Okay, wow. You're really gonna do that thing where you talk down to me? I'm not talking down, I said. I'm talking straight. She sighed dramatically. You don't get it. You don't live here. Exactly, I said. And I'm not paying to live there either. There was a pause, then her voice got lower. So what, you're cutting everyone off? I'm setting boundaries, I said. She laughed, and it wasn't sweet this time. Boundaries. That's what people say when they're selfish. I didn't take the bait. Kinsley. I'm not sending you money. So you're just fine letting Mom and Dad struggle, she snapped. I looked at the folder on the desk, my employment letter, my pay verification, the evidence that I handled my life like an adult. They're not struggling, I said. They're choosing not to deal with you. Her breath caught like I'd said something obscene. She recovered fast. You think you're so smart. You think because you wear a uniform, you can judge everyone. I'm not judging, I said. I'm observing. I hate how you talk, she said. You've always been like this. Cold. I actually smiled at that because the irony was almost impressive. I spent years trying to keep peace, and she called me cold when I stopped. I'm not cold, I said. I'm done. She went quiet. Then, like she couldn't help herself, she tried a different angle. Okay, so if you won't fund the business, can you at least send me something small, like 200? I just need gas and groceries. I stared at the ceiling. There it was, the pivot. The same move every time. If the big ask fails, shrink it until you feel rude saying no. No, I said. She sucked in a breath. Are you serious? Yeah, I said. I'm serious. You're really gonna let me starve? She snapped, voice rising. You're not starving, I said. You're manipulating. She shouted, you're disgusting. I waited, kept my tone even. I'm done with this conversation. Before she could slam me with another line, I ended the call. My phone immediately buzzed with another text. Kinsley. If you don't help, don't come crying when you need family. I stared at it, then laughed one short, humorless laugh. Because family in their definition wasn't love. It was access. I didn't respond. I didn't block her yet. I didn't need the satisfaction. I needed the structure. I opened my notes app and created a folder, Family Financials. Inside, I made 4 sections. Transfers sent. Bills paid. Messages demanding money. Doorway incident. No drama words, just facts. Then I opened my calendar and scheduled reminders, send documents to lender confirm, walk through call insurance for homeowners, quote, my life back in my hands. And when my mom's number popped up again, I let it ring while I typed the next email to my lender with steady fingers because I wasn't going to keep answering calls that only existed to pull me back into the same loop. I was halfway through uploading my bank statement to the lender's portal when my work phone rang and the caller ID made my stomach drop. Chief Maddox, on leave, a call from your chief is never just checking in. It's either something is on fire or someone thinks you're the fire. I answered fast. Chief Maddox PO1 Whitaker. Whitaker, she said, voice clipped. You near base? Yes, Chief. Come in, now. No explanation, no small talk. Just the kind of tone that tells you to stop wondering and start moving. I grabbed my keys, left my laptop open on the desk, and drove like I was late for muster. The whole way there, my brain tried to fill in blanks. Did I mess up paperwork? Did something happen with my leave? Did the lender call base and say I was buying a castle made of fraud? Then I remembered the last 24 hours. Kinsley, the group chat. The family is family guilt script. The way she'd said accountability like it was a weapon. By the time I got to base, my hands were steady, but my jaw was tight. At the gate, the guard scanned my ID and waved me through. I parked, walked into the building, and the fluorescent lights hit me like a reality check. Everything smelled like cleaning solution and printer toner. Familiar, neutral, safe. I knocked on Chief Maddox's office door. Enter. She was standing arms crossed like she'd been waiting for me. There was another chair in the room, pulled slightly away from her desk, an extra seat that didn't belong there. That detail told me everything. This wasn't a casual talk. Chief Maddox gestured to the chair. Sit. I sat. She didn't sit. She paced once, then leaned against her desk. Do you have anything you need to tell me before I start talking? She asked. My heart thumped once, no, Chief. She nodded slowly. Okay, we got a message. I didn't speak. She continued precise. An anonymous concern. Came in through a general inbox. Not official complaint paperwork, not a report with a name attached, but it was specific enough that I can't ignore it. My fingers curled slightly on my knees. About me. Yes, she said. It claims you're under financial pressure, experiencing family conflict, and maybe unstable. Unstable. There it was. The word Kinsley loved. The word people used when they didn't like boundaries. I kept my face neutral. Chief, I'm not unstable. I didn't say you were, Chief. Maddox replied. I said someone wrote it. I exhaled slowly. Did it say anything else? It implied you might be a risk, she said. To yourself. To the unit. You know the language. I did. It was vague, but loaded. It was the kind of message designed to make leadership nervous without saying anything that could be proven false. Chief Maddox watched me carefully. Do you know who sent it? I didn't hesitate. Yes, Chief. Her eyebrows lifted. Go on. My sister, I said. Or someone acting on her behalf. Chief Maddox didn't look shocked. She looked annoyed, like my family had just tried to file paperwork incorrectly. Why would she do that? Chief asked, even though her tone suggested she already knew. Because I stopped sending her money, I said. She's been escalating. She told me I wasn't welcome at my parents' house because I wouldn't invest in her business. Chief Maddox's mouth tightened. Your parents allowed that. Yes, Chief? She stared at me for a beat, then nodded like she was mentally checking a box. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to handle this like adults with rank and common sense. I almost smiled at that. Almost. She pulled a printed copy of the message out of a folder and slid it across the desk. I didn't touch it right away. I looked at it, then looked at her. I'm not in trouble, I asked. You're not in trouble, she said. You're being targeted. There's a difference. That sentence hit me in a place I didn't expect. I'd been walking around feeling like I was guilty of something because my family was mad at me. Chief Maddox just named it for what it was. Targeted. She pointed at the paper. Read it. I picked it up and scanned. It was exactly what she described, concerned tone, vague details, just enough specific to sound credible. It mentioned I'd been acting different, that I'd cut off family support, that I was hoarding money and isolating. Hoarding money, because I wasn't giving it to them. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice flat. This is her. Chief Maddox nodded. I believe you, but believing you isn't enough. We document, we address, we close the loop. She sat down, finally pulled her keyboard closer, and started typing. I'm logging that you came in on short notice, you're calm, coherent, and you've provided context. I'm noting that it appears to be a family dispute being weaponized. I watched her type and felt relief spread through me like warmth. Not because she was saving me, because she was making it real. Paperwork, records. The kind of truth that doesn't care about feelings. Chief Maddox looked up. Do you have receipts? Yes, Chief. Show me. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes folder, and scrolled to the screenshots I'd taken. The group chat. Kinsley's texts. My mom's line about not being treated like family if I didn't help. I handed the phone over. Chief Maddox read without expression, then gave me a look that said she'd like to personally throw my sister into the sea. She slid the phone back. Good, keep all of it. Yes, Chief. She tapped her pen against the desk. Now listen carefully. You are not required to explain your personal finances to your family. You are not required to fund anyone's lifestyle. And you are not required to take abuse just because it comes with a Christmas card. I nodded. And she added, you are going to protect yourself the same way you protect a supply chain. You close gaps. You reduce access. You control information. Yes, Chief. She leaned back. Who's your emergency contact? I hesitated for a fraction of a second, then said I updated it. Primary is my friend Tasha. Secondary is you, Chief. Chief Maddox blinked, then smirked. Bold. It's practical, I said. She gave a short nod. Good. Then her voice went serious again. Do you feel safe? Yes, Chief. Do you feel like you're at risk of harming yourself? No, Chief. Do you have any intention of doing anything that would compromise your duties or your clearance? No, Chief. She nodded once. All right. That's the check-in. That's the box I needed to check. Now I need you to understand the bigger picture. I sat up straighter. This is a form of sabotage, she said. It's amateur and emotional, but it's still sabotage. Family can't just fling accusations into the wind and expect your command not to look. I swallowed. I'm sorry this is touching work. Chief Maddox waved a hand. Don't apologize. You didn't start it. You're ending it. She slid the anonymous message back into the folder. If they contact the unit again, we respond the same way professionally, factually, with documentation. No drama, no chasing. Yes, Chief. She paused. And you keep your home purchase quiet. You do not share your address. You do not give anyone a spare key. You do not let anyone stay just a few weeks. I let out a breath that was almost a laugh. You sound like you've met my family. Chief Maddox's mouth twitched. I've met plenty of families. Different names, same tactics. She stood signaling the meeting was over. Go handle your closing paperwork. Enjoy your leave. And if your phone starts lighting up like a slot machine, you can ignore it. Yes, Chief. I stood too, but before I could leave, she added Whitaker. Yes, Chief. Her expression softened just a little. You can love people and still not let them access you. Don't confuse guilt with duty. I nodded, unable to speak for a second. Then I left her office and walked down the hallway with my shoulders squared, my pulse steady and a new kind of anger in my chest. Not the messy kind that makes you say things you regret, but the clean kind that makes you lock every door. Outside, the wind was sharp again. I got in my car and pulled out my phone. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call my dad. I opened my lender portal, uploaded the rest of the documents, and then opened my Notes app to add one more line under Doorway Incident. Anonymous concerns sent to my command. Because if my family wanted to play dirty, I wasn't going to play louder. I was going to play smarter. I sat in my car outside the building for a full minute, thumb hovering over my contacts, then deleted my parents' address from the frequent list. Like I was removing a shortcut to trouble. Chief Maddox's advice was still ringing in my head: control information, reduce access. So I treated my next 48 hours like an operational plan. No announcements, no venting posts, no, can you believe this text to cousins who would screenshot it and send it right back to my mom. Quiet, clean. Back at the hotel, I called the title company and confirmed my signing window. I called my insurer and got a homeowner's quote. I changed the passwords on 2 accounts I hadn't thought about in years, because Kinsley was the kind of person who remembered your childhood secrets like they were keys. Then I did something that felt both ridiculous and necessary. I checked my mail settings. My old home address was still connected to a couple places, a credit card I never used, a store account I forgot existed, and one stubborn subscription that had been following me like a clingy ex. I updated every single one, because if my family couldn't get money out of me, I didn't want them finding comfort in getting information. The next morning, my realtor texted me a quick update about the walkthrough schedule. Normal stuff. Boring stuff. The kind of adult life I'd worked for. I was replying when my phone buzzed with a new notification. A Facebook tag from my Aunt Linda, the one who always brought potato salad to reunions and opinions to every conversation. I clicked it before I could stop myself. It was a post from my mom's account. Nothing dramatic. Just a photo of the front of my parents' house, perfectly framed, like it belonged in a real estate listing, with a caption that made my stomach drop. Family is everything. Proud of my girls no matter what. And underneath it, a comment from Kinsley. Some people forget where they came from when they get a uniform. I stared at the screen, pulse rising. My mom had posted it like a peace offering, but it was really a warning shot. Kinsley had used it like a knife. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again immediately, like the caller was offended by boundaries. I let it go to voicemail. A second later, another call, this time from my dad. I answered because apparently I still enjoyed suffering. Bree, he said, fast, breathy, where are you? My shoulders tensed. Why? Your mom just wants to talk, he said. Kinsley's upset. Everyone's upset. And people are asking questions. What questions? I asked. He hesitated too long. Dad, I said, what questions? He cleared his throat. Your aunt heard you're buying a house. My stomach went cold. I didn't say anything. I let silence do the work. How did she hear that? I finally asked. Dad rushed through the answer like he wanted to outrun it. She saw something online. A friend of a friend. It was like a congratulatory post. A congratulatory post. I already knew what happened before he finished explaining. Realtors, title companies. Somebody had posted something like, so excited for my client, with a general location tag, and my aunt, who treated Facebook like a federal database, had found it. Dad, I said carefully, did Mom post about me buying a house? No, he said. Then softer, not exactly. That was Dad language for yes. I closed my eyes. What did she post? Just something about family, he said. It wasn't bad. I almost laughed. Everything she posts is about family. That's the point. He went quiet. Then he tried the soft approach. Bree, your mom's just hurt. She doesn't understand why you're being so distant. I opened my eyes and stared at the wall. She understands. She just doesn't like it. Dad sighed. Kinsley thinks you're doing this to punish her. I clenched my jaw. I'm doing this because I'm an adult and I'm allowed to own things. He started to speak, then stopped. Your mom wants to know where it is. There it is, I said. What? That's why you called, I said. Not to ask if I'm okay. To ask for my address. Bree, that's not fair, he began. It's accurate, I cut in. I'm not giving you the address. His voice sharpened. So you don't trust your own parents. I stared at the ceiling again. You stood there while she told me I wasn't welcome. Don't act surprised that I'm careful. Dad didn't have an answer for that. He went back to the usual line. Just, don't make this bigger than it is. I laughed once low. Dad, you already made it bigger when you let her call my command. Silence. Then his voice dropped. That was Kinsley, not us. Who pays her phone bill? I asked. He didn't answer. I ended the call without yelling. That was my new skill, ending things without performing emotions for people who didn't deserve them. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from my mom. Mom, we heard you bought a house near the water. Why didn't you tell us? So that was the narrative now. Not are you safe? Not I'm sorry? Not even congratulations. Why didn't you tell us? Like information was a right. I didn't reply. Then another text came in Kinsley. Kinsley, you bought a beach house but can't help your own sister. That's disgusting. I stared at it and felt something in my chest go still. Beach house. She made it sound like I was sipping cocktails on a yacht, not buying a modest coastal home, with careful budgeting, and a lender who wanted my blood type. I opened my notes folder and added a new section, leaks. Then I took action. First, I texted my realtor. Me, can you remove any post about my closing and ask your team to do the same, realtor? Of course. I didn't post anything with details, but I'll make sure nothing is shared. Second, I called the title company and asked them to lock down privacy. No sharing, no casual client mentions, no public congratulations. Third, I pulled up my USPS settings and ensured all mail forwarding and informed delivery were under my control. I changed the password again, because why not? Then I did what Chief Maddox would call closing the gap. I wrote house rules before the house even fully belonged to me. Not emotional rules, practical rules. No spare key for family, no mail sent there for anyone but me, no unannounced visits. No, I'm in town, so I'm stopping by. All visits by invitation, and that invitation can expire. I typed it out in a clean note, like it was a policy memo, because that's what it was, a policy for my peace. My phone buzzed again. Group chat. I unmuted it just long enough to see what was happening. Aunt Linda. Is it true Bree bought a beach house? Cousin Markwell must be nice. Mom Bree hasn't responded. I'm worried. Kinsley. She doesn't care. She thinks she's better than us. My mom's I'm worried line would have been hilarious if it weren't so predictable. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried I'd stopped being controllable. I typed one message into the chat, then deleted it, then typed a different one. I'm not discussing my finances or my address. Please stop. Short, clear, no arguments, no explanations. I hit send. Immediately, Kinsley replied, "So you're hiding it because you're ashamed." I stared at that, then smiled a little. Not because it was funny, because it was proof. If I didn't give them information, they'd try to shame it out of me. If I didn't give them access, they'd try to guilt it out of me. That was the whole game. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from the unknown number that called earlier. I played it. A woman's voice, sharp, unfamiliar. Brianna, this is Janet Bloom. I'm a realtor in your parents' area. Your sister said she had questions about a property you're purchasing and asked me to reach out. Please call me back. My stomach tightened. Kinsley had tried to involve a realtor. Not even my realtor, someone local to them. Someone she could charm into digging. It was petty, but it was also real-life dangerous. Because people like Kinsley didn't need to steal your money to hurt you. They just needed your information. I saved the voicemail. Then I opened my notes and added another line under leaks. Kinsley contacted a realtor to fish for details. I set my phone down, stood up, and paced the small hotel room, once breathing slow. I wasn't panicking. I was adjusting. I sat back down at the desk, opened my laptop, and drafted one email, polite, firm, simple. To Janet Bloom, subject, do not contact me again. I'm not working with you. Please do not share or seek any information about my purchase. Any further contact will be documented. I didn't send it yet. I read it twice, removed anything emotional, and kept it clean. Then I opened my calendar and double-checked the walkthrough time. Friday, 10 o'clock. The plan was still the plan. My family could talk all they wanted. They weren't getting my address, they weren't getting a key, and they definitely weren't getting to rewrite my life into a group chat storyline. Not anymore. I sent the email to the random realtor, shut my laptop, and laid my ID and closing folder on the desk like I was setting out gear before an inspection. Friday morning came fast. I drove to the walkthrough with my coffee in the cup holder and my nerves under control. The sky was gray-blue, the kind of coastal morning that smells like salt even before you see the water. My realtor met me outside the house with a clipboard, and that upbeat professional smile people use when they don't know your family just tried to crowdsource your address. "Morning, Bree," she said. "You ready?" "Yep," I said, and I meant it. The house wasn't a dream mansion. It wasn't a look-at-me purchase. It was practical and mine. Weathered siding, solid roof. Good bones, nothing fancy. A small porch, a yard that would need work. A short drive to base. And if I walked 2 blocks in the right direction, I could hear the ocean like a distant appliance humming. We did the walkthrough the way adults do, checking outlets, running faucets, testing the garage door, making sure nothing that wasn't supposed to disappear had vanished. As I flipped light switches and opened cabinets, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Calm. Not the calm you get because everything's easy. The calm you get because you finally made a choice that doesn't require anyone else's permission. My realtor handed me a set of keys attached to a plastic tag. Title company's expecting you at noon. You've got everything ready. I patted my folder. Everything's in here. Perfect, she said. And just so you know, I already asked my team not to post anything. Totally understand. Thank you, I said. She hesitated like she wanted to say more, then didn't. Most people learn quickly not to step into family drama. I respected that. I got back in my car and drove toward the title company. On the way, my phone lit up with a call from my mom. I let it ring. Another from my dad. I let it ring too. Then a text from Kinsley popped up like she'd been waiting for the exact moment she knew I'd be busy. Kinsley, so you're really doing it, buying a beach house instead of helping your family. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to argue while I was literally on my way to sign documents worth more than my parents' entire living room set. At the title company, the receptionist smiled too brightly and offered me water like I might faint from adulthood. I sat at a conference table while a notary walked me through papers one by one. It was boring in the best way. Sign here, initial there. Confirm your name, confirm your address. Confirm that you are not laundering money for a foreign government. I wanted to tell her, ma'am, my family can't even keep track of a phone bill. When it was done, the notary slid the final page toward me. Congratulations, Ms. Whitaker. I stared at my signature like it belonged to someone else, someone more stable, someone who didn't get told she wasn't welcome in her own childhood home. Then I took the keys and walked out to my car. I sat there for a second, keys in my palm, and didn't do anything dramatic. No tears, no speech, just a long breath. Then my phone rang again. This time it was my dad. I answered because apparently I still believed in miracles. Bree, he said, too cheerful. Hey! I stared through the windshield. Hey! So he said, drawing it out, your mom told me you're closing on a house today. It was impressive how he could say closing on a house, like he was casually asking what I wanted for dinner. Yeah, I said. A pause. Well, that's good. I waited. He cleared his throat. Your mom wants to congratulate you. I almost laughed. Does she? She does, he insisted. She's just hurt. She feels shut out. Dad, I said slow and clear I was shut out. In the doorway. Silence. Then he pivoted. We should all talk. I didn't bite. What do you need? He hesitated. We just want to see it. No, I'm proud of you. No congratulations. No apology. Just access dressed up as affection. I kept my voice even. No. He sounded genuinely offended. No, I repeated. He tried another angle. Bree, you're in the Navy. You're busy. You're gone a lot. It would make sense for your mom and me to stay there sometimes, just to help you. Help me. Right. You can help me by respecting what I say, I replied. He sighed like I was difficult. You're being stubborn. I stared at the keys in my hand. I'm being clear. He lowered his voice. Kinsley's embarrassed Bree. People are talking. They think you're abandoning the family. I let out one short breath that wasn't quite a laugh. People can think whatever they want. He paused. So you really won't even let us visit? I didn't say that, I replied. I said no to access. No to staying. No to spare keys. No to showing up whenever. He went quiet. Then he tried the soft guilt. Your mom's been crying. I almost said, she didn't cry when Kinsley told me I wasn't welcome, but I didn't. I didn't want to argue with a man who used feelings like traffic cones to redirect you. I'm not discussing this on the phone, I said. Dad's voice tightened. Fine, we can meet. That made my stomach clench. Meet meant ambush. I'll meet you in public, I said. Public, he repeated like I'd suggested a courtroom. Yes, I said. A coffee shop. Another pause. Okay, he agreed too fast. Tomorrow. Today, I said. Before you build a story about what I said. He grumbled but agreed. 2 hours later, I sat at a coffee shop near a busy shopping center. Bright lights, plenty of people, no private corner for guilt. I chose a table where I could see the door. Old habit. My parents walked in first. My mom looked like she'd been practicing her hurt but noble face. My dad looked tired. Kinsley arrived 2 minutes later, wearing sunglasses inside like she was a celebrity escaping consequences. She slid into the chair and smiled at me like we were friends. Congrats, she said, voice sweet. Must be nice. I didn't respond to that. I sipped my coffee and waited. My mom reached across the table like she was about to touch my hand. I moved my cup slightly, not rude, just not available. She flinched, then forced a smile. We're proud of you, Bree. I held her gaze. Are you? Her smile twitched. Dad cleared his throat. Of course we are. Kinsley jumped in before they could mess it up further. So when can we see it? There it was, straight to it. I set my cup down. You can't. My mom blinked. Bree. No, I said calm. Not right now, not like this. Kinsley scoffed. What does that mean, not like this? It means you don't get to tell me I'm not welcome, then show up expecting keys, I replied. My dad raised a hand. Nobody said. Kinsley did. I said eyes on my sister. And none of you stopped it. My mom's face tightened. Bree, you have to understand she was emotional. Kinsley laughed. Here we go. The Navy lecture. I leaned forward slightly. This isn't a lecture. This is the rule: no spare key, no staying there, no mail, no dropping by. If I invite you, we can talk about a visit, but you don't get to move in. Kinsley's mouth fell open. Move in? Who said move in? My mom jumped in quickly. We just thought, since you'll be gone sometimes, it would be smart. We could keep an eye on things. Kinsley added a little too eagerly, and I could use the extra room to work. It'd be perfect for my business. I stared at her. No. She slammed her palm lightly on the table, just enough to get attention. So you'll buy a beach house, but you can't help me get a venue deposit. I didn't flinch. Correct. My mom's voice rose. Bree, this is family. I nodded once. Then act like it. Don't treat me like a payment plan. Kinsley leaned back, eyes narrowed. You're really going to hold a grudge over one sentence. I looked at her steady. It wasn't one sentence. It was the truth. My dad's jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to push harder, but he was in public, and that made him careful. My mom tried again softer. Honey, we just want to be close to you. I met her eyes. Then start by respecting a no. Kinsley let out a sharp laugh. You're unbelievable. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I just sat there calm in a way that made her uncomfortable because she couldn't pull me into the old loop. Outside the window, people walked past carrying shopping bags and iced drinks, living their own lives, not negotiating their dignity at a coffee shop table. I picked up my keys in my pocket with my fingertips like a reminder, then stood up. I'm leaving, I said. My mom's eyes widened. Bree, don't. I'm not doing this, I said simple. I said what I said. Kinsley scoffed loudly. Run away like always. I didn't even look at her. I walked out, got in my car, and drove toward the house. My house with the keys heavy in my pocket and the ocean air waiting like it didn't care who was mad at me. I pulled into my driveway, sat with the engine off, and stared at my front door like it was the one place on earth that didn't require me to negotiate. I went inside, dropped my keys into a bowl on the counter, and did a quick lap through the house the way I'd done on ship's eyes on doors, windows, locks. Anything that could become a problem if someone decided your boundaries were optional. Then I set up the camera system I'd ordered the minute the leak happened. Nothing fancy. A doorbell cam and 2 exterior cams, motion alerts to my phone. Practical. I wasn't trying to catch a criminal mastermind. I was trying to catch my family just stopping by. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Mom, we should talk again. You left without resolving anything. Resolving. Like I'd missed a step in her script. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, another text. Mom, your father drove all the way here for you, and you walked out. That was cruel. Driven all the way here, my stomach tightened. I reread it twice slower the second time. Here. They didn't have the full address I'd told myself. They didn't know. Then how did my father drive all the way here? I opened my camera app. Nothing. Just the front porch, empty sunlight slanting across the steps. The street quiet. A neighbor walking a dog. Normal. Maybe my mom meant here as into the coffee shop. Maybe she was being dramatic. That was always possible. I forced myself to breathe and stayed focused on what I could control. I wrote one response and kept it short. Me, I said what I said. Please respect it. I set my phone down and tried to do something normal like unpack. I opened a cabinet and realized I didn't have a single plate in the house yet. My life was still half in boxes. I had a couch being delivered in 2 days and a mattress on the floor like I was a college kid with a mortgage. I smiled at that. It was stupid and perfect. Then my phone buzzed with a motion alert. Front door. My chest went tight instantly. I opened the camera feed. For a second, all I saw was the top of someone's head. Then the camera adjusted. My mom, my dad, and Kinsley standing a little behind them, holding a rolling suitcase like she was checking into a resort. My body went cold. I didn't move. I didn't open the door. I just stared at my phone while they stood on my porch like this was normal, like the coffee shop conversation had been a scheduling misunderstanding, not me saying no in plain English. My mom pressed the doorbell. The chime echoed through the empty house, cheerful and innocent, like it didn't know it was being used for emotional warfare. My phone buzzed again, call from Mom. I didn't answer. I opened the camera's two-way audio instead. My voice came through the speaker calm and slightly distorted. "Why are you on my porch?" My mom jumped a little, then recovered fast. Bree opened the door. "No," I said. My dad leaned toward the camera, like he could reason with technology. "We just want to talk." "We already talked," I replied. Kinsley stepped forward into framed sunglasses on like she was still auditioning for a reality show. "Stop being dramatic. We drove all the way here." I stared at her suitcase. "Why do you have luggage?" My mom waved her hand like I was being silly. "It's nothing, just in case. We weren't sure how long we'd stay." My throat tightened, but my voice stayed even. "You're not staying." Kinsley laughed. "Oh my God, you're seriously going to do this?" "Yes," I said. "I'm seriously going to do this." My dad's face tightened. "Bree, you're making a scene." I almost laughed. I was alone in my own house, speaking through a doorbell camera. If anyone was making a scene, it wasn't me. "Leave," I said. My mom's smile strained. "Honey, we're family." "You didn't act like family in that doorway," I replied. "And you didn't act like family in that coffee shop. You're not coming in." Kinsley stepped closer, eyes sharp. "So you can buy a house near the water, but you can't even let your own mother use the bathroom." I stared at her. Of course she went for something that made me look cruel. I kept my voice steady. "There's a gas station 2 blocks away." My mom's mouth fell open. "Bree." My dad raised his voice. "This is ridiculous. Open the door." I didn't. I walked to the living room window, instead staying out of view, and watched them through the blinds. My hands were steady, my stomach wasn't. Kinsley was talking fast, pointing at the door, like she was presenting an argument to a jury. My mom kept looking around like she expected a neighbor to come out and witness her as a victim. My dad paced agitated, like he wanted to yank the door open, the way he used to yank the remote from my hand when Kinsley wanted a different channel. My phone buzzed again, another doorbell press. Then a harder knock. I opened the two-way audio again. "If you don't leave," I said calm, "I'm calling the police." My mom froze. "You wouldn't." "I would," I said. "Because this is my property, and you're trespassing." My dad's face changed, like he was seeing me as a separate adult for the first time, and not liking it. Kinsley scoffed loudly. "You're insane." I let that sit there. Let her say it into a camera that recorded everything. Then she said the line that made my blood turn hot. "You owe us," she snapped. "You wouldn't have anything without this family." I laughed once sharp. "I have this because I worked." "You worked," she shouted. "You get a paycheck from the government." I leaned closer to my phone voice, still even. "Kinsley, you don't get to tell me I'm not welcome and then demand my house." My mom jumped in voice, pleading, "Bree, your sister is just stressed." "She didn't mean it." "She meant it," I said. "And none of you corrected her." My dad barked. "We're not doing this through a camera," I replied. "Then you should have listened at the coffee shop." Kinsley rolled her suitcase an inch closer to the door, like proximity would change my answer. "We're staying one night." "That's it." "No," I said. My mom's voice rose sharper now. "After everything we've done for you," I cut her off, still calm. "Name one thing you did for me that wasn't attached to me paying for Kinsley." Silence. My dad looked away first. Kinsley exploded. "You're such a liar. You're selfish. You're cold. You're going to die alone with your stupid house." I didn't respond. I watched her unravel on my porch suitcase beside her, while my mom tried to hold her arm like she was restraining a dog that bites. My phone buzzed with another notification text from Aunt Patrice. "Aunt Patrice, I just heard. Don't open that door." I stared at the message and felt a weird wave of relief. Someone had noticed. Someone wasn't asking me to be smaller. I typed back with one hand. "Me, I'm not opening it." Then another message came in from her. "Aunt Patrice. They don't miss you. They miss your money." I swallowed hard and read it again. On the porch, my mom pressed the doorbell again, rapid this time, like she was trying to wear my door down with persistence. My dad leaned toward the camera and lowered his voice like he was being reasonable. "Bree, if you don't let us in, don't be surprised when you have no family left." I stared at him through my phone screen. "Dad," I said quietly, "you already left." His face tightened. Kinsley shouted, "Say goodbye to Mom then." My mom's expression shifted, not to sadness, but to anger, the kind she saved for when she wasn't getting what she wanted. "Fine," she snapped. "If you want to be alone, be alone." Then she did something I didn't expect. She turned toward Kinsley and hissed, "Stop yelling. The neighbors will hear." So that was the fear. Not losing me, being seen. My dad grabbed the suitcase handle and yanked it back like he was pulling Kinsley away from a bad idea. Kinsley resisted, still shouting, still performing. My mom bent towards the camera one last time, face close enough that I could see every tight line around her mouth. "This isn't over," she said. I didn't answer. I just watched as they walked back down my steps. My father stiff. My mother furious. My sister twisting her head back toward the door, like she expected it to open out of guilt. They climbed into their car. The camera caught the license plate clearly. The car backed out, and as the taillights disappeared down the street, I stood in the quiet living room, phone in my hand, heart still pounding, and did the one thing I knew would keep this real. I opened my notes app and typed 5:42 p.m. parents, and Kinsley showed up with luggage. Refused entry, threatened police. Recorded. Then I went to the front door, checked the lock, and slid the deadbolt into place with a clean final click that sounded less like anger and more like safety. I didn't sleep much that night, but not because I was anxious. It was the opposite. The house was quiet in a way I wasn't used to. No doors slamming, no voices arguing through walls. No one asking what I was doing with my money or why I wasn't doing more. Just the sound of the wind outside and the low hum of the refrigerator reminding me the utilities were finally mine. In the morning, I made coffee and drank it standing at the kitchen counter because I still didn't own a table. The ocean was there if I leaned toward the window, not loud, just present. It didn't ask anything from me. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No texts from my mom. One message from Aunt Patrice. "Aunt Patrice, proud of you. Call me when you're ready." I typed back a simple thank you and put the phone down. By the end of the week, the couch arrived, then the bed frame, then a couple lamps I bought without asking anyone's opinion. I hung a single framed photo on the wall, not of my family, but of my command at a charity run from a few years back. People who showed up, people who didn't ask me to be smaller. Work settled back into its rhythm. Chief Maddox didn't bring up the anonymous concern again, which told me everything I needed to know. It had been handled, logged, closed. The kind of problem that dies when it's exposed to facts. A few days later, she stopped me in the hallway. "Whitaker." "Yes, Chief." She handed me a folded piece of paper. "You were selected for an upcoming billet. It's not flashy, it's solid." I opened it and scanned the details. It was a good assignment. More responsibility, more trust. The kind of thing you earn quietly. "Thank you, Chief," I said. She gave me a look. "You didn't get here by accident." I smiled because for once I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. That weekend, I invited a few people over. Nothing big. Tasha from my command. 2 neighbors I'd met while bringing in boxes. One of them brought chips. The other brought a folding chair because, as she said, every new house needs one ugly chair. We sat in the living room, shoes kicked off, drinks balanced on boxes, laughing about nothing important. No one asked how much the house cost. No one hinted they might need to stay just a few nights. No one acted like my success was a group project they deserved credit for. At one point, Tasha raised her cup and said, "To boundaries." Everyone laughed, but it wasn't a joke. Later that night, after everyone left, I stood on the porch and let the air settle around me. The street was quiet. The cameras were still. The locks were solid. My phone buzzed. "Mom." I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds before answering. "Hello," I said. Her voice sounded smaller than I expected. "Bree." "Yes." Another pause. "Your father and we don't understand why you're shutting us out." I leaned against the porch railing. "I'm not shutting you out. I'm setting rules." She exhaled sharply. "Rules shouldn't apply to family." I kept my voice even. "They apply to everyone." She didn't like that. I could hear it in the way she breathed. "Your sister is devastated." I almost laughed, but I didn't. She showed up at my house with a suitcase. She was emotional. She was entitled, I corrected. My mom's voice tightened. "You didn't have to threaten the police." "I didn't threaten," I said. I explained consequences. Another pause, then softer. We raised you better than this. I nodded to myself. You raised me to take care of myself when no one else would. She didn't respond. I waited, not filling the silence, not rescuing her from it. Finally, she said, "Can we start over?" I chose my words carefully. "We can talk. We can meet in public. I'm not giving out my address. I'm not giving out keys. And I'm not giving money for Kinsley's business." She inhaled sharply like she wanted to argue. I added, "Those aren't punishments. They're conditions." She was quiet for a long moment. "I'll talk to your father," she said finally. "Okay," I replied. She hesitated. "We love you." I believed she believed that. I just also believed she didn't know how to love without control. "I know," I said. We hung up without yelling. That alone felt like progress. Kinsley tried once more a few days later. Her text came in at midnight. "Kinsley, Mom says you're being dramatic. You really going to throw away your family over money?" I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, another one. "Kinsley, you think that house makes you better than us?" I stared at the messages and felt nothing. No anger, no urge to defend, no need to correct the narrative. I typed one response. "Me, I'm not discussing this anymore. Take care." Then I blocked her. Not with ceremony, not with satisfaction, just a tap and a setting change. The next morning I updated my notes. Contact with Kinsley blocked. I didn't feel lighter. I felt steadier. Weeks passed. The drama didn't vanish overnight, but it lost its grip. Without my reactions, it had nowhere to go. No audience, no fuel. My parents sent occasional messages, neutral, careful. I replied when I felt like it. I didn't rush. I didn't apologize for boundaries that had already proven necessary. One afternoon, as I came back from work, my neighbor waved from her porch. "You settling in okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I think so." She smiled. "Good, you deserve it." That simple sentence hit harder than any apology. That night, I cooked dinner in my own kitchen, ate it on the couch, and let the quiet sit with me. Not the lonely kind, the earned kind. I thought about the doorway at my parents' house, the silence, the sentence that pushed me out. "This house doesn't welcome you." They were right about one thing. That house didn't. This one did. And it didn't require me to pay an entrance fee. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and went to bed knowing I hadn't won anything. I'd just stopped losing myself to people who thought love came with a receipt. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like peace. I used to think family meant unlimited access. Like if someone shared your last name, they automatically got a key to your life, your time, your money, and your peace. But what I learned the hard way is that love without boundaries turns into control. And control always shows up wearing a friendly mask. This wasn't about winning or embarrassing anyone. It was about refusing to keep paying for family drama just to earn a seat at a table where I was never treated like a person. If you're living your own family revenge story right now, especially while trying to build a career in the military, remember this: strong doesn't mean available, and forgiveness isn't access. And if this story hit a nerve, or if you've ever had to choose peace over pressure, subscribe to the channel. I post real feeling family revenge stories with military life boundaries and receipt stories that remind you you're not crazy for protecting what you worked for. Subscribe, and you'll have more of these waiting for you when you need them. 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 For you when you need them.